What's up guys, Onmaths here, and today we're looking at expanding and factorising quadratics. So there's three main types of question. There will be an expand type of question, a factorise question, and a solve question. So we're going to do one of each of those today, and we're going to start off with AQA's questions. So it says multiply out. Now sometimes it will say expand, so multiply out and expand mean the same thing, and then simplify. So the first thing to know about this question is when you square a number, so here we've squared the x minus 8, you times it by itself. So the first thing I do is just write out the bracket twice. And that's the reason why this is the last question on this paper. Question 28 was the last question on paper 3, 2017 November for AQA, because they haven't kind of done that first step for you. They're not showing you two brackets. So what a lot of people wrote was x squared minus 64, because they've just squared the two terms, but that's not the way of doing it. So whenever you have two brackets next to each other, the first thing you do is you draw a grid. Now if you've got a different method, then obviously stick with that. But I love the grid method. It's my favourite method. And so with the grid method, we're going to write down the two terms. So we're going to write down the x and the minus 8 at the top. And then we're going to write down the x and the minus 8 down the side. And we're going to times them out. So we're going to times each of them. So x times x is x squared. X times minus 8, so a positive times a negative is a negative, and 8 times x is 8x. Same with this one, and then we've got a negative times a negative, which is a positive, and 8 times 8 is 64. Then we collect these terms together, so I'm just going to write them all out next to each other. But you'll notice that, generally speaking, these two here are the same term. So this one here and this one here it's not the same term, but like terms. In this instance, they are the same term. So with like terms, you can add them together. So minus 8x, take away 8x. So if you think about the number line, you're on minus 8, lots of x, and you're taking away 8 lots of x. So that will end up at minus 16x plus 64. So the step here is the simplification. That's us simplifying. So our answer is x squared minus 16x plus 64. Now something I want us to notice, I'm just going to rub out these lines here, is that when you add these two numbers together, so minus 8 plus minus 8, you get minus 16. And when you times these numbers, so minus 8 times minus 8, you get the 64, the positive 64. And we'll need that for factorising, which we'll do next. So with this question, which is question 17, I've missed out part A because it was rearranging, which isn't really to do with quadratics, but I've left in part I of this because it looks like a quadratic, it looks like it will be two sets of brackets, but actually there's no number term, and you need a number term for it to be a quadratic. So with this one, all we do is we do a single bracket, and both of them have an x in, so we put x on the outside, and x times x is x squared, and x times minus y is minus xy. If you don't know how to do that, go back to our linear expanding and factorising video, and that will show you how to do that one. But I just wanted to leave it in there to show it's not a quadratic. This next one, however, is a quadratic. So how do you factorise this? Number of steps. The first step is identify it's a quadratic. So we've got the x squared and we've got the number term. So it's definitely a quadratic. The next step is to put down two sets of brackets. And we're going to put this straight in our answer. The next step is we've got an x squared there, and you always have a letter squared, and there won't be like 2x squared or 5x squared or anything like that on the foundation paper. It would just be a letter squared. And you get that letter and you put that in the start of each of the brackets. So we're pretty much done with our answer. This is the more complicated bit. So we've got to find what these two numbers here are. Okay? And the way of doing that is these two numbers here have to add to get to that number. and they need to multiply to get to that number. So we need two numbers that add together to make 8 and multiply, like times together, to make 12. So the easiest way of doing this is just write down the factors of 12. So 1 times 12, 2 times 6, 3 times 4. Okay, all of those are the factors of 12. So there's our possibilities. It's either 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. Then what you do is you add them, see what you get. So that equals 13. Well, what number are we trying to get? We're trying to get 8. That's not right. 6, 7, 8. Oh, that looks right. And let's check the last one, 7. So that's not right. So the numbers are going to be 2 and 6. And they're both positive. So it'd be plus 2, plus 6. Okay. We can check that. And I'd always advise you to check it. So we're going to expand it. And check it at the end of the exam. You don't need to do it at the time. When you've got some time left at the end of the exam, you can spend that time checking it. So we've got x plus 2 and x plus 6. X squared plus 2x plus 6x and then plus 12. And then when we simplify that, so put them together, and these two will simplify. So it'd be x squared plus 8x plus 12, which is the question. So that kind of matches the question up here. And so we know that it's the right answer if it matches the question. Now some people ask me, does it matter if I've written x plus 6, x plus 2? The way around of this doesn't matter. When you times two numbers, it doesn't matter which way around they are. So if you wrote x plus 6 bracket x plus 2, that would equally be a correct answer. Last up is our Edexcel solve question. Now, what frustrates me sometimes with some students is that they know how to factorise, and then as soon as it gets to solve, they kind of get scared off. Solve is the same as factorising with a little bit of stuff at the end. So if you can factorise, just put that extra effort in to be able to solve. So we're going to start off by ignoring the equal 0 and just factorising the quadratic on the left hand side. So we'll do the same as we did before. We put down our two brackets. I'm still going to have the equal 0 there, but I'm not going to worry about that just yet. It's x squared, so the letter's x, so we put an x at the start of each of those. And we need two numbers that times together to make the minus 24. And add together to make the 5x. So this is slightly harder because it's now minus 24 that they need to times together to make. Okay, so the factors of minus 24 are going to be 1 and minus 24, 2 and minus 12, because they need to be different signs, otherwise you won't get minus 24 when you times them together. 3 and minus 8, 4 and minus 6. And the next one, 5, doesn't work, so 6 and 4, so that's the same thing. But we can also have the first one being negative, so minus 1 and 24, minus 2 and 12, minus 3 and 8, and minus 4 and 6. So there's loads of possibilities here. So we're going to add them together and find the one that adds together to make that 5. So that's going to be minus 23, that doesn't work. 2 plus minus, that would be minus 10, that doesn't work. Now, minus 8 plus 3, or 3 take away 8. 3 take away 8 is minus 5. So that's close, but that doesn't work. So we want a positive 5. So at this point I go, well, hang on, 3 plus minus 8 doesn't work, so it's got to be minus 3 plus 8. And 8 take away 3, or minus 3 plus 8 is going to be 5. So we can kind of jump to the right answer straight away. We don't need to work out all of them. Okay, so our numbers are going to be minus 3 and 8. And so it's a positive 8, so it's going to be plus 8. Now I'm going to do this the kind of long-winded way and show you how to do it. And then I'm going to show you a trick at the end. Okay, so this is the long-winded way. Here we've got a situation where we've got two numbers. We've got x minus 3, which is representing a number, and x plus 8, which is representing a number. We know that they're timesing together to make 0. Now the only way you can get two numbers and times them together to make 0 is if one of them is a 0 or both of them are 0. Okay, you can't get a 0 if both of them aren't a 0. So what we do is we use that information and say, well, either x minus 3 is equal to 0 or x plus 8 is equal to 0. Like, that's the possibilities. One of them has to equal 0, or possibly both of them. So all we do is we solve this, and if you don't know how to solve equations, then there's a video on our site about that. So just look up that video, and we get x equals 3 on this side, and get our lines in, and we'll take away 8 from both sides here, and we're just solving this. There we go. So there's our two solutions. So it's x equals 3 or x equals minus 8. And when you're solving quadratic, you almost always get two answers, and that's absolutely normal. That's what you should get. Now, I said that there's a trick way, and there is a trick way. To find a solution, all you do is you do the opposite of that. So plus 8, the opposite would be minus 8, and the opposite of that. So minus 3 would be plus 3. You just switch the signs on them, and that will always work. Now, it breaks down on the higher paper when you've got 2x minus 3 inside the bracket, but on the foundation paper you won't get that. So just remember just to switch the sign. So whenever you've got it equal to 0, switch that sign. So a minus 3 becomes x equals 3, and plus 8, positive 8, becomes x equals minus 8. So this is, I think most of these questions, if not all of them, were pretty much the last questions on the paper. So everything we've done today is grade 5, absolutely grade 5. So if you're understanding bits of it, brilliant, get some marks for it. Otherwise, I hope you found this video useful. If you did, please click like. If you want to see more from us, release videos every single weekday, Monday to Friday at 9 o'clock in the morning. Just click subscribe and the bell icon to make sure you're up to date with those. If you want to see even more from us, which I'm sure you do, click on the link that appears above this video as I speak. That will take you straight through to our website, onmaths.com, which is packed full of completely free resources to help you with your maths. Otherwise, thank you very much, and I'll see you tomorrow.